If you want to become the strongest, look no further than Baki Hanma himself. Not only does he pack quite a punch, but he's also extremely agile and has one of the most iconic anime physiques of all time. If you wanted to build an impressive anime physique and get stronger at the same time, then this is the video for you. Today, I'm going to show you how you can train like Baki Hanma at home with zero weights. But this isn't just about training to look like Baki. We also want to train to fight like Baki as well. Well, who knows? Maybe you'll become strong enough to beat up your dad, if you're into that sort of thing. In this video, I'm going to analyze the main features of Baki's physique. I'm going to be showing you what exercises I would do if I wanted to train like Baki. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you guys 2 full routines. All right, enough with the fluff. Let's jump straight into the physique breakdown. When I first looked at Baki's physique, there were 2 things that I noticed. And that's his big humongula gongles, his bonkala hungala hoogers, his big humongula gongala gongala, his pecs, his boobies. And this makes a lot of sense, because in order to be good at throwing a punch or holding onto a grapple, you need to have big, strong pecs. But you can't just be a big walking set of boobs. Well, that'd be really funny. But you also need to build a strong back in order to bring balance to your entire physique. But with Baki, he's kind of a special case. Since he's the son of the ogre, he inherits the Hanma demon back. I already go over this in my Train Like Yujiro Hanma video, but in a nutshell, we really gotta focus on all aspects of the back in order to build an amazing demon back. But of course, we can't forget about the arms. Everything from the top of his shoulder down to his forearms is incredibly well developed. His delts, perfect. His arms, huge. His forearms, freaking massive. His abs are also really impressive, and especially in fighting, they are crucial to train. Since punching uses a lot of rotational force from the torso, we need to be able to train that rotational force in our routine. Now, unlike the other anime physiques that we've covered on this channel, Baki actually shows his legs for once. And let me tell you, they do not disappoint. His quads are massive, which makes sense given his incredible kicking strength. And not to mention his massive calves, which I'm quite jealous of. But what's also equally important is the amount of flexibility Baki has. Baki is able to kick people in the face with absolutely no problem, and that's due to having great hip mobility. Now, a word of warning, Baki's training is shown to be really intense in the show, so in the spirit of Baki, we're gonna also make this workout a lot more intense than the other ones I've covered on this channel. So if you think you're strong enough to handle it, let's jump right into the routine. Now, in order to train like Baki, or any other fighter for that matter, we need to understand one key training style that is the core of this routine. We want to emulate fighter-specific movements. And if we look at the majority of fighting, a lot of it is unilateral movements. So if we want to get better at unilateral movements, we need to train unilaterally. And this makes a lot of sense, because according to this study, training specificity, whether it's unilateral or bilateral, is crucial for athletes depending on the nature of their sport. And the benefits of unilateral training are pretty awesome. Besides training specificity, since you're working one arm at a time, you're naturally going to get stronger as you'll be overloading more weight onto one arm. But it also requires a certain degree of core stability and engagement, because you're only working one side and you're going to have to be resisting some twisting. With that in mind, what unilateral exercises would work best for the Baki workout? The first thing that comes to mind is working on that punching strength, but also developing that double D man chest. And the exercise that I think works best for this is the one-arm push-up. Not only does it build strength in that unilateral plane, but it's also simulating a punching motion as well. Now, it's very important to keep your core engaged, because you want to prevent your body from twisting and you want to keep your shoulders parallel with the ground. If these are too difficult for you, try elevating the non-working arm, which is automatically going to put more load onto the working arm. But like we said in the physique breakdown, we don't want to just be working chest, we want to be working the antagonist muscles as well in order to bring balance. We also want an exercise that'll help develop that glorious demon back that Baki gets in the show, and the best pulling exercise for this is going to be one-arm chin-ups. Now don't worry, these aren't going to be full one-arm chin-ups. We're going to be doing assisted one-arm chin-ups, where the non-working hand uses 2, 3, or 1 finger to hold onto the bar, while the other arm is in the full chin-up position. And this is going to automatically bias that working arm. And of course, the fewer fingers you have on the bar, the harder it's going to be. And then once you become really strong, you can just use your pinky. But we can't just be training upper body if we want to throw punches like Baki. And this is important because About 39% of punching power does not come from the upper body, but it actually comes from the legs. So we need unilateral exercises to train our legs, not only for performance, but also to develop monster quads. And the first exercise to do this is called floating. Now this exercise is really effective because the amount of effort it takes to lift your body from the starting position upwards is really difficult. You'll also want to try your best to go as slow as possible on the way up and the way down to really stress those quads. Another classic unilateral exercise for the legs are Bulgarian split squats. It's kind of like a lunge, but one leg is elevated while the other one does most of the work. And it's super effective in targeting the quads and a bit of the hamstrings. A trick with this to make it as effective as possible is not to fully lock out your leg at the top, because we want to keep our quads under tension as much as possible. Of course, the entire workout isn't going to focus just on unilateral training. Baki is also known for being incredibly flexible, being able to kick people in the face super easily. Not only that, but extra flexibility and mobility makes us a lot more resilient to injury. But you probably don't want to spend hours of your day stretching, so I found an alternative way to train that actually increases the muscle fiber length. And by the way, I stole this from the Bioneer, so if you're watching, Mr. Bioneer, please don't be mad at me. So in order to increase our muscle length, we want to focus on slow eccentrics. This means that when our muscles are in the lengthening phase, we want to try our best to be as slow and controlled as possible and have a really deep stretch at the end range. A perfect example of this is doing reverse Nordic curls, similar to what we did for the Garo video. At the bottom of the movement, we want to pause for a couple seconds in order to get that maximum stretch while the muscle's under tension, and then you spring back up. Another great leg exercise for this to increase our hip mobility is horse stance squats. And similarly, we want to go slow on the way down and really feel the stretch in our hips and then go back up. Slow eccentrics also work for back training if we do them with this exercise, the front lever raise. What I love about this exercise is that it trains your entire back. It targets your lats, and when you're going on the way down, it transitions to targeting mostly your upper back. Not to mention, it mimics other exercises that fighters do, such as hammer swings or medicine ball throws onto the floor. But if you find this too difficult, I suggest you try doing arch raises instead. It mimics the movement and it's not as hard. Another great thing about slow eccentrics is that it really promotes muscle growth because of the combined stretch and tension. And this is perfect because we want to be able to replicate Baki's massive chest. And so the ideal exercise to accomplish this is going to be dips. Now dips work great because it's more lower chest focused, and that's what gives Baki's pecs their super round shape. On top of that, the great range of motion that your pecs go through is perfect for the slow eccentrics. Another great exercise is decline deficit push-ups. And unlike dips, this is going to target our upper chest because our feet are elevated above our hands, and using something like parallettes to give ourselves more range of motion gets a nice deeper stretch at the bottom of the movement. But just doing push-ups and dips isn't enough to isolate some of the crucial muscles that Baki has. Now, we've seen Baki do tons of feats of strength, such as his signature Baki pose and handstand on his thumbs. But since I don't feel like breaking my thumbs today, we're just gonna do regular handstand push-ups to isolate his shoulders. Now, you're gonna wanna do these against a wall so we don't have to worry about any of the balancing component. Handstand push-ups are super effective at blowing up your shoulders and giving you a more rounder, wide look. But if you find these too difficult, good old-fashioned elevated pike push-ups will work just as good. But the shoulders aren't the only thing we want to isolate. If we took a look at Baki's physique again, he has incredibly thick forearms and upper back. So a great exercise that's going to work on forearm thickness and upper back thickness is false grip inverted rows. You want to be able to grab deeply onto your rings, and when you get into the inverted row position, you want to keep that forearm as flexed as possible. Now, this can get a little crampy if you're not used to the position, so if your false grip starts to fail before your back does, transition back into a regular grip and continue your inverted rows until failure. But let's not forget about his upper arms. Exercises like ring bicep curls and basic tricep extensions are going to isolate these perfectly. And of course, we don't want to forget about the calves. Single leg calf raises work great, especially on an elevated surface to get more stretch. And we can't forget about Baki's abs. But we don't need to do a bunch of ab exercises to train like Baki. A common exercise that fighters do is throwing a medicine ball against a wall, which trains their rotational strength. Now, I don't have a medicine ball and I don't feel like damaging my walls, so the next best thing is going to be windshield wipers on the pull-up bar. Now, you'll You'll want to be careful with this movement because of the excessive spine twisting, so make sure to be slow and controlled because I don't want you guys to hurt yourselves. So with all the exercises listed out, here's how I would construct my workout if I wanted to train like Baki. I would of course follow a PPL split, starting with the more difficult exercises first, and then finishing off the day with more endurance and isolation-based movements. But that routine is just if you want to look like Baki. If you really want to emulate the idea of Baki, then this is an alternative routine that I suggest. Essentially, it's a PPL split, but you're only doing them once per day. You get 2 rest days instead of just 1, and the remaining 2 other days is spent training any form of martial arts, whether that's Taekwondo, Muay Thai, Karate, or I don't know, Aikido. But you'll notice in the first routine that we only train abs twice a week, and in the second routine, we only train it once. There's a perfectly good reason for that, and if you want to find out what that reason is, check out this video right here.